Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Thursday, December 5th. I'm your host, Zach Worden, and I'm very excited today to be joined by Scott Crawford, the Director of Operations at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Of course, big news today from the Hall of Fame dropping. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the 2024 Tip O'Neill Award winner. Scott, welcome back to the podcast. We're thrilled to have you back today.
Zach, it's always great to talk baseball, even though we're covered in snow here in Southern Ontario, but it's never a bad day to talk baseball.
The snow always makes the spring feel better, and you know that baseball's coming around. So, bright side of the snow, I guess, a little bit there.
That's right. We can't wait. Spring training's, around the corner, we'll say.
Exactly. Closer every day. So let's get into this. Very exciting. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. now a two-time winner of the Tip O'Neill Award. I guess kind of from your perspective, I guess we can start off on what did you kind of think of the year that he had and just how incredible he was for the Blue Jays?
I mean, we all know he had a terrible month of April, and we're all, everyone, including ourselves here and every Blue Jay fan in the world is like, what's going on? What's wrong, right? But I forget the exact date, but obviously mid-May-ish, he started being the best hitter in baseball. You got the Aaron Judges of the world that, obviously had better numbers, but really, Vladimir ended up being one of the best hitters in all of baseball from mid-May till the end of the season, and that was quite an impressive turnaround.
Yeah, obviously we've had a lot of Vlad conversations on the podcast about just the incredible year that he had and how it seems like he really took a step forward. I think maturity wise on and off the field, and kind of took the leadership role with the Blue Jays and kind of had this revelation of a season, even though we've kind of seen him obviously have a even better year in 2021, if you want to look at it that way. But just I think that the step forward that he took was really impressive. And I mean, for him, being a Montreal-born player playing for the Blue Jays, I wonder what the significance of that is to you. Just him being kind of this Canadian representative on the Blue Jays and having all of this success.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Especially on the Jays. Three of the last four award winners have been Blue Jays, right? Vladdy in 2021, Romano in 2022, and Vladdy again in 2024. So it's kind of a cool connection that these guys play for the home country, the team I grew up watching, you grew up watching, and then to have the last few years, and you throw in Zach Pop, who's in the bullpen, and we've had three Canadians on the roster the last few years, which is makes it even more exciting to watch the games and see when they're going to get in. And Jordan, of course, was hurt most of the year, but and now not necessarily on the team next year, unfortunately in my mind. But Zach will be around, and Vladdy obviously will be around.
Yeah. Obviously, Ross Atkins the other day saying that the Blue Jays are going to be pursuing a reunion with Romano, so can only hope that comes to fruition there. But I mean, like you mentioned, he's the third, or sorry, he's the third Blue Jay to win it in the past 4 years. But he becomes, or I guess he already was, the fourth Blue Jay to ever win the award. What is the significance of having a Blue Jay, win the Tip O'Neill?
It gives more notoriety to the award. It doesn't really matter what team you play for, but Canada's team, it's the Blue Jays. It's the only team in Canada, and so that just gives it a little more significance and a little more excitement. Again, that just, I mean, anybody playing baseball in Canada is a great thing, and have Canadians playing on the team is even cooler.
Yeah, for sure. I know it obviously, it especially, you see them in the red jerseys, you see them kind of all that stuff, really cool to see. And obviously, does help with the connection to the fans in the country. So I think that's really important. As far as, kind of Vladdy taking his spot in like Canadian baseball history, I wonder like context in the grand scheme of things, kind of where you think his career might be headed now that he, has two Tip O'Neill awards. He's still so young in his mid 20s and kind of has the chance to really lay out this really big legacy north of the border. Obviously, hoping that he gets an extension done kind of in before he hits free agency next year, or eventually does sign long term with the Blue Jays. But what kind of legacy do you think that he can kind of have on the country and with his with his career with the Blue Jays?
No, he did start so young, and he's only 26, I think, next year. So he's still a young player. He's climbing up the Canadian rankings, right? He's still. Larry Walker won the Tip Award 9 times, and Joey Votto won it 7 times. So he's got a long ways to go to match those amazing players from Canada. the Justin Morneaus of the world, obviously won MVP and All-Star and Silver Sluggers and whatnot. So, I mean, he's climbing the ladder. You got to stay healthy. And that's a big thing for every player, obviously. And it's hard to do. There's not many players that go a whole career without getting hurt. Vladdy's been very lucky so far, and knock on wood, it keeps going, of course. But it's one of those things where he's had a great start to his career. His first 6 years into his career, and we all hope he keeps it going, especially with the Blue Jays, because the more games the Blue Jays win, the better they do. It helps everyone in baseball in Ontario and Canada. More kids get excited about baseball if the Blue Jays are winning games, and that's a great thing. More people want to come to the baseball museum, because baseball's in the talk and it's cool to do, right? So they come to the Hall of Fame and visit us as well.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Let's talk about some of the other guys because obviously I think Vladdy was so good this year that it was kind of it was seemed like it was his award to lose. But I mean so many Canadians did have really great seasons. Obviously, Cade Smith was incredible with his run in the postseason and the regular season that he had. Tyler O'Neill was a 30-run home run or a 30 home run guy again. Josh Naylor, of course, was great with that Cleveland team. What did you kind of see from the field outside of Vladdy as far as who else was kind of pushing to be named the Tip O'Neill Award winner?
Yeah, I mean, you basically hit the nail on the head. Those three were the next three in line, basically. I mean, right? I mean, Cade Smith had a historic season, a 1.9 ERA and 100 strikeouts as a reliever, and Josh, who won the award in 2023, he hit more home runs and more RBIs than he did the year before, but his batting average is a little bit lower. So I mean, so maybe not quite as good a year, but still 30 and 100. I mean, 30 and 100 is what your goal is every single year as a player. And Tyler O'Neill would have crushed records, if he played a whole year. I mean, I think
Yeah.
he played 113 games and he hit 31 homers. Like, he was on pace to hit 45 home runs this year if his health was. And that's the thing. Like, you got to stay healthy, right? And Tyler's struggled over the years. He's had some really good seasons, two Gold Gloves, and he had a 30 homer season in 2021 with the Cardinals. And but he struggled to stay healthy the last couple of years. But I just every year I say a healthy year of Tyler O'Neill will be amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's a free agent this year, so you never know where he'll be next year. But his biggest issue is health. And so, I mean, those three guys, but you look at, I mean, Nick Pivetta, with the Red Sox, he had, 170 some strikeouts, and, he had a pretty good year. And then there's some up and coming guys too that maybe we'll get into later about, the future of Canada's game is very, very bright.
Yeah, yeah. Before we get to that, I kind of, you mentioned it with Tyler O'Neill being a free agent, and there's so many Canadians kind of available right now. Obviously Romano's a free agent, O'Neill, Cal Quantrill's a free agent, Mike Soroka, Pavetta as well. Like, I mean, all these guys are kind of available, and it's going to be like I think a pretty significant offseason for Canadian baseball. Who are you kind of most excited to see where they end up landing for 2025 and beyond?
All of them in Toronto. I think you're right. I mean, there's so many, like, Pavetta's going to make 50 or 60 million dollars with some team, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he pitches a lot, he strikes out a lot. Soroka, I would love to see Soroka back in starting rotation. He's one of my favorite players. He's a former Tip O'Neill Award winner with
Yeah.
the Braves back in 2019. But maybe his place, because of all the arm injury or the leg injuries mostly, he's had maybe the bullpen's his place. I mean, he was lights out in the bullpen this year as sort of the long guy for the White Sox, and obviously on a very bad team with the White Sox, unfortunately for him this year. But and Cal Quantrill, I mean, pitching in Colorado is tough, but he started 29 games this year. So after being hurt the previous year, he's showing that he can pitch every fifth day, which is, of course, what you want as a starting pitcher. Nowadays, if you throw 5 innings, the teams are happy, and that's exactly what Cal did this year. And who else? Abraham Toros, I think, is a free
Yeah.
agent as well. I mean, he's probably not a starter anywhere, but definitely a good utility guy. I mean, if you have a guy in your field that can play first, second, short, third, have some speed, have a bit of power, I mean, he'll be a valuable guy on some team. That's for sure this year. So I think there's a lot of connections. I'll be interested to see, like, Quantrill, Cleveland let him go, and then they were a little short pitching this year. The Rockies now let him go. The Rockies are obviously in a rebuild, but It'll be interesting to see where Cal goes because I think he's proven he can pitch every fifth day, and that's pretty rare these days. So he'll be the interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I think with him too. I mean, his first half was really good. I think he had a really good case to kind of be the Rockies representative at the All-Star game, and kind of just the way that it worked out, it didn't end up being him. But yeah, really interesting year from him, and I know he's obviously gonna land on his feet somewhere and probably find a spot just the way that the pitching market always is. So yeah, we'd be really excited to see where he goes. Yeah, let's like you mentioned, the future of Canadian baseball. I think, the next couple of years we're going to get some really exciting graduations. Of course, we see the likes of Owen Casey, Matt Wilkinson, kind of Jonah Tong, like all these guys that are making their way up. Tyler Black made his debut this year. Who kind of do you have your eyes on as like, maybe not necessarily a potential like Tip O'Neill Award winner, but some of these guys that are going to really kind of break through in the next few years and hopefully establish themselves as full-time major leaguers.
Well, I'm a fan of Owen Casey. He just
Yeah,
mashes the ball and he can play the outfield. He's not one of those guys where he doesn't have a defensive position. I mean, being in the Hall of Fame here, Owen Casey played here as a teenager for the Fieldhouse Pirates. So it was cool to see him as a
yeah,
15-year-old hitting baseballs a mile at the Hall of Fame here on a Saturday morning, right? And now he's a step from the big leagues. He's young. He's like 21, 22, and he crushed it in AAA. There's nothing more for him to do in the minors. The problem with him is the Cubs outfield's full,
yeah.
right? With Bellinger and Crow Armstrong and Happ, so he really has no spot to play unless something major happens with the Cubs. But he's one of my favorites. But you got Tyler Black. I mean, his tools, speed and power. He needs a position open up in Milwaukee for him. Again, I remember Tyler, his dad, Rod Black, emceed our induction ceremonies. And after the ceremony, I look around the corner and there's Tyler, 10-year-old Tyler and his dad playing catch,
Yeah.
just a game of catch with your dad, which is one of the coolest things. And who knew what Tyler would be a major leaguer, 10 years later. That'd be cool. But there's others like Denzel Clark added the 40-man
Yeah.
roster. Matt Wilkinson said pitcher of the year. Jonah Tong was pitcher of the year for their organizations. Um, uh, Canada's future is very exciting and not far away from the next line of studs just making the show and showing what they can do.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for Canadian baseball for sure. And it's kind of funny because it kind of comes at the same time as, like I think the older generation of like Canadian baseball stars are kind of starting to retire and age out. We saw obviously this year Joey Votto announced his retirement in in a Buffalo parking lot. Who would have thought that ever would have happened? It seems like James Paxton, he said that he was intending to retire. I'm not sure if he's officially done that yet, but I know he said during the season that this was probably going to be it. And you kind of see guys like that going out. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Joey Votto experience this year and kind of how that all went and what ended up being the retirement for him while a member of the Buffalo Bisons.
Yeah, I think a lot of things just went against Joey this year, right? I
Yeah,
mean, his first of all, his age, he's 40, right? How many guys are in the 40s in the big leagues? A couple, like Rich Hill pitched a little bit this year, and maybe a couple other guys. There were a couple other, but I just forgetting their names right now.
yeah,
But 40 years old is hard to keep up with 25-year-olds, right?
yeah.
In anything, let alone pro sports. And he came to spring training. He had his one at bat. He hit that home run, and everyone's like, "Oh, Joey's gonna be a superstar in Toronto this summer." And he sprained his ankle, and 2 or 3 months later, it took for his ankle to heal. He obviously hurt it badly, and then he slowly made it up AAA, and it just wasn't like he just couldn't keep up with the AAA pitching, right? I mean, we all saw his numbers in AAA. They weren't good. Joey's a great guy, 7-time winner of our award. I've met him, a dozen times at either the Baseball Canada banquets or down Cincinnati when we gave him the award. Legendary player, Cooperstown player for sure in my mind in 5 years. And but it was just a tough year. I mean, I think everyone wanted him called up, and of course it would have been a great PR move and pretty cool to see him called up and play, but I don't think he really wanted the token call up. If he's hitting 350 in AAA, well, he deserved to get a call up and deserved to slot in at DH or first base and Vladdy's DH and getting a day off. But it just didn't happen. And for him to announce in the parking lot, that's Joey. Didn't surprise me. I mean, it surprised me, but it didn't surprise me that he did it. And then 2 hours later, he was actually at the Rogers Center hanging out with his Cincinnati Reds teammates. So which again didn't surprise me at all, that Joey did it that way. He's always done things his own way, and they've always worked out. And yeah, he's a Hall of Fame player. So whatever he did worked perfectly for him and his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Paxton too, he had a really solid career, spending time with so many different teams, the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, kind of all over the place. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on his career and if he does in fact kind of hang it up, what his legacy will be?
Yeah, when I saw that post about him hanging it up, I emailed him. I said, "No, James, like we keep pitching,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he again, he's a crafty lefty, right? Every team needs a lefty. He's got the injury issues too. Obviously, he ended his season with the leg injury with the Red Sox, after just 3 starts with them, and but he's a typical Neil Award winner, back in 2018. Great career, great ERA. I mean, you look at his ERA, it's just over 3.5,
Yeah.
and um, that is a great ERA for this time, this pitching, these days of pitching. His whole career has been health ridden with injuries. But if he ever got a shot, he would have pitched very, very well. And I hope if they say they retire, I mean, Kevin Pillar said he retired, and now I think he's coming
Yeah.
back. And a left-handed starting pitcher who can, pitch you 150 innings. It's worth $20 million these days. So I hope he comes back and pitches. But again, he's done it for a decade, and he's had a great career. And if he wants to retire and he's got a family and whatnot to stay around with, then that's all good for him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, very, very great career. Big Maple, kind of
Yeah.
one of these guys that I think kind of carried the pitching kind of group of Canadians for a while there, kind of the headliner of Canadian pitchers for a little bit. So really,
We Yeah, we have his lineup card from that no hitter that he threw
oh
against the Blue
wow,
Jays on display in the museum. It was a day where I'm like happy and sad at the same time because the Jays got no hit,
yeah,
but it was done by a Canadian. So it was pretty cool to see that. And for James to have a no hitter, I mean, every
yeah.
pitcher's dream, right? Throw a no hitter, and he did it in Canada, which was even cooler for him and his family.
Yeah, really, really awesome moment for sure. Kind of, speaking of some moments, like I mean, I wonder if there's any that stick out to you this season for any Canadians. I mean, if there's, kind of one thing that stands out to you for the year that was in Canadian baseball and in the major leagues in 2024.
I mean, you go to the Cleveland's bullpen. I
Yeah.
mean, Cade Smith all year long, he wasn't touched all year, right? I mean, 1.9 ERA, just his ability to come into key situations and basically right away. Like they had Class A, so obviously, no one's touching the ninth inning. I mean, I think Cade had one save this year, which makes sense when you have, Emmanuel Clase as your closer.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he came in, and then his bullpen partner Sabrowski, who came in September. I mean, he's threw 12 and two-thirds shutout innings to start his career, right? And I think the record's 19, for a Canadian to start their
Oh,
career. So
okay.
we're going to be watching that next
Yeah.
year. For regular season, of course, Eric gave up a run in the playoffs, but regular season, and just the way, and then like, I mean, in the playoffs, they brought him in to face Judge and Soto,
Yeah.
and just that moment when you're a rookie, that what, and there's lots of things that stand out, but that's just one of the things is with the playoffs that, Kate Smith struck out 12 guys in the division series, and Sabrowski came in and faced the greatest players on the planet Earth, and he's a rookie, and he got them out, and so stuff like that really really excites me because it's Canadians doing it. You're a rookie, Aaron Judge should hit a home run against a rookie every single time because he's so darn good, but he didn't, and so those are some of the cool moments.
Yeah, it was really funny because you feel like they were pitching in every single game for Cleveland in the postseason. It seemed like they were every game, their starter would go like 2 innings, and then it would be Cade or it would be Eric kind of coming out of the pen early on, and it was really really cool to see, especially with of course having the two nailers there as well, and having them being the most Canadian postseason team ever, which is a really cool story for sure. Kind of with that, I mean, with that Cleveland team, what was that experience like at the Hall of Fame and being able to see the four of them go so deep into October?
Yeah, it made the playoffs more exciting, as Cleveland was there, because again, in our mind, obviously the Blue Jays, but if the Blue Jays aren't in it, then you're like, well, what Canadians are
Yeah,
in? I mean, we had Rob Thompson, of course, managing the Phillies.
yeah,
So we were cheering hard for him. But player wise, I mean, there were four players all on one team, so it's kind of easy to cheer for the one team. And the one game where Bo Naylor got an RBI, like Bo struggled in the playoffs hitting, but the RBI he got, he knocked in his brother Josh,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, I just think of me and my brother, or you and your siblings, or whoever's listening to this. Like, imagine being in the big leagues and in the playoffs, and you get hit, and your brother scores a run. Like, I mean, it happened a few times during the regular season, but the playoffs are extra special. And Josh and Bo are so great to the Hall of Fame with donating artifacts or signing baseballs and whatnot. And Bo Bo has become a very good catcher. Obviously, his bat struggled a little bit this year, but he's catching and hitting is hard to do. And Bo's still his second year in the league, so Bo's still learning a lot about the game, and he'll learn a lot from his brother, who's had a very successful career. And hopefully Josh stays in Cleveland for a while. But you never know with Cleveland what they'll do with their wily veterans
Yeah.
on their team. So we're hoping there's four Canadians on the Cleveland roster next April when the season starts for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think it was John Morosi reported that they were, or it was Ken Rosenthal actually. He wrote today that they're open to moving him. So, it's always going to be interesting to see. Cleveland obviously can't necessarily keep up financially with some of those guys, so it's tough to kind of see. But yeah, hopefully he stays there, and then one day Matt Wilkinson makes it up, and that they kind of have this whole Canadian contingent there that goes deeper than those four would be really awesome. Okay, so another big thing at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame this week was the announcement of Dave Perkins as the Jack Graney Award winner. Really, really cool for him there. What kind of went into him being the winner this year, and if you could give, for some people who maybe aren't quite as familiar with his work, what led to him being this year's award winner?
Yeah, and the Jack Greaney Award is a lifetime media award. So you really have to be in the game a long time. Dave's been retired for a few years, so it's perfect because it's a lifetime award. He worked for the Toronto Star for a long, long time. He was the Blue Jay reporter. He was a baseball reporter in general, but he's also a Blue Jay reporter. And he did it for, forget 33 decades, I think it was. Right from the mid 80s, and then it covered the World Series into the 2000s. And it's just it's it's so well deserving. Jack Rainey is from St. Thomas, Ontario. He was the first player to become a broadcaster back, played for Cleveland for a long time, and then he broadcasted the Cleveland games for a couple decades. And being that he was the first one to do it, and being Canadian, that's why we named the award after him. But Dave is so well deserved. Again, we have a committee that does the voting about it or for it, and it's just one of those things where we want to help honor the media, because the media as well, they promote the game, good or bad. Like, they give opinions, obviously, which is their job. And but to win our award, you have to be pretty special and pretty good at what you do. If you look at our people we've been giving it out since the Hall of Fame started, I think Dave was the 27th winner of the award. And look down the list, and they're the best of the best on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very deep list of winners there for sure. Obviously you award the Jack Rainey Award at the induction ceremony in the summer, and I was kind of hoping, we could maybe get to a little bit of a look ahead to next year's ceremony and what the next year's class. I know obviously it hasn't been announced yet, but who are some of the names that are up for induction this year, and who might we be looking forward to seeing next year at that be go into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, we have a selection committee spread across Canada that does all the voting, and there's 24 voters, and they get the information sort of in a couple weeks before
Okay.
Christmas. We get them out the information, and then they sort of have January to figure out who they want to vote for. Obviously, it's a busy time of year for everybody, and we'll announce it early February. With induction, it's going to be June 14th this year, Father's Day weekend again. So make sure you come on out to St. Mary's if you're near close enough. Long drive for you, Zach, but if people are close enough, come to St. Mary's. The ballot isn't completed yet, so we can't really say who's on it yet. But it's always a wide range of people. Like last year, we had the name people like Russell Martin. Everyone knew Russell Martin and Jimmy Key, and then last year we were lucky enough to induct our first woman into the Hall of Fame who represented Baseball Canada, and Ashley Stevenson. And then Howie Burney was inducted, and Paul Godfrey, who has a huge history with the Blue Jays. So the committee did a really good job last year on spreading out, all aspects of the game, from players to executives to umpires to amateur players. So I think it'll probably end up being similar this year as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I know I've said it on the pod before, but one of my favorite events on the baseball calendar. So, I'll definitely be back there next year, and it's I've been to the last two, so really exciting and really enjoy the ceremony that you guys put on every year. So really looking forward to be back there and see who's going to be going in. Yeah, let's keep moving on. I mean, right now you guys have your holiday silent auction going on, a big fundraiser for the Hall of Fame. So if you're listening and you're interested in some Canadian baseball historical artifacts or some items, regarding the game in Canada, go check that out. Of course, it's on the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame website. I gotta ask, like, I mean, you guys have seats from the Rogers Center. How did you kind of go about, or how would those kind of come into to being one of the items at the in the auction?
Yeah, they were getting some publicity the other day, which is kind of cool. But well, they're from the 500 level, so they're from the construction two off seasons ago, I guess. The Blue Jays uh, donated us a row of seats. So I think we got 8 seats,
Okay.
and we kept a couple for the collection, of course, because we want to, as part of the history of the Blue Jays is these seats. We have seats from Exhibition Stadium. We have seats from Maple Leaf Stadium, where the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team played before the Blue Jays existed. So now we have seats from the Rogers Center, which is cool for our collection. And then with the couple extra we had, we auctioned off a couple last year and 2 this year, and I think we got 2 more that we'll probably do in the induction weekend. So because different
Awesome.
crowds of people will actually be there. But this auction's all online. It's through baseballoffame.ca. It's right on the front page. We have 99 items, which I didn't mean to do, but we all know number 99 in Canada is Wayne Gretzky. So,
Yeah.
and Wayne is a great baseball player in his youth too. So, but the auction ends Monday at noon. So you want to get in, check it out, and place some bids. It's a huge fundraiser for us this time of year and really important. So if you see something you like, bid on it. If you see something your friend might like, bid on it too, and win it for your friend for a Christmas gift.
What are some of the items that, other than the seats that stand out to you?
Yeah, we got a lot of autographed baseballs and bats. So the Blue Jays donate some things. Kevin Gausman ball and a Vladimir ball and Springer bat, and but we really got some cool experiences this year. I think there's 8 experiences in this year, which you can't get anywhere else, right? I mean, if you're we got a baseball lesson by Ashley Stevenson, who's a Hall of Famer or new Hall of Famer from last summer. She's going to teach 4 kids a baseball lesson. We got dinner with Rob Thompson, manager of the
Oh, wow.
Philadelphia Phillies. Go have
Yeah.
dinner with Rob Thompson. You can have dinner or lunch with Blair and Barker from the Blair and Barker show, and then attend and then watch their show from inside the studio.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty cool. Ben Schulman gave 4 tickets and go up to the radio booth for an inning and hang out in the radio booth at a Blue Jay game. So again, things that the average person can't do, right?
Yeah.
Some stuff with the London Knights, with the OHL hockey team down here in London, and curling with Sarah Wilkes. If you're a curling fan, we got Sarah Wilkes from Team Homan, who winning
Wow.
everything in the curling world.
Yeah.
Sarah lives in London, and she's going to give a curling lesson for someone who loves curling, and obviously curling's huge
Yeah.
around here, and she's the best in the world. So that's another cool item. So some experiences are really the cool things this year that again you can't just go do, unless you bid in our auction and win the prize. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Really cool. Yeah, that very awesome. The experiences sound amazing, obviously. You know, lunch with Blair and Barker, I feel like that would be a heck of a time. You can't beat what those guys are doing. So very cool for sure. All right. Well, Scott, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. Took way too much of your time today. It's always great to catch up and talk a little bit of baseball. And I'm sure we'll have you back on before next year's ceremony, and definitely have to catch up again, but before the season gets going.
for sure, Zach, let's chat in February after we know our class, and then we can talk all about them and promote the June 14th weekend. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You can find Scott and all the information about the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, of course, at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame website, which is baseballhalloffame.ca. You can find him and the Hall of Fame on Twitter. That is at CDN Baseball HOF. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View Pod. If you're listening along on the podcast provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. And you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach, and the pod is at BEV_pod. Thank you very much for listening.